Hey, Art Foundation students, we'll be starting a new project this week. We've done some practice already with 2-point perspective. Please excuse the construction noise. It's right behind my room and it's already interrupted like 6 of these videos that I've tried to make. So this time I think I'm just going to go with it. So you might hear some beeps in the background. Hopefully the microphone doesn't pick them up too much. We're going to use 2-point perspective. Just like you guys practiced with last week, and we're gonna use that to make an architectural drawing. And so really all you'll need to get this started is you'll need paper, you'll need pencil, you'll need a ruler, and you'll need to find a building or part of a building where you can see a corner kind of coming out towards you, right? And so your corner should be kind of pointed towards you. If the corner is going away from you, that's not gonna work in 2-point perspective. So if you were on the outside of a house, you could just go sit outside the house at the corner, right, and look at the building, and you could do that in 2-point perspective. Or if you're in the school here looking for a spot on campus, you could go sit at a hallway, right, where the hallways split 4 ways, and you could just face toward one of those corners, and you could get 2 of those hallways probably splitting out in either direction. So that's all you need. You need paper, pencil, ruler, and a corner of a building or the interior of a building to start with. Where we'll go with this is this will ultimately be a watercolor painting, but first we're just going to be drawing. And so I would recommend using an H pencil, the higher number H, so say a 6H. It's going to be the harder the lead. The harder the lead, the lighter that pencil will draw. And that's what you want to use for this. You want to draw nice and light, especially as we lay it out at first, because a lot of these lines will get erased once we figure out where everything is and what size everything is. So keep in mind, especially something like this where you want to be nice and precise and clean, you want to use an H pencil instead of those Bs. Those Bs are more expressive, but they're also not as clean. They're a little more sloppy and they go darker, and so you don't want to be drawing dark. You want to draw nice and light to start this out. Eventually, we'll turn this into a watercolor based off the work of Charles Demuth. I'll probably get into him some more next week once we get the foundations of this drawn, and then I'll kind of show you what he does with his architectural pieces. They turn out really neat. I've done a couple of pieces based off of his work myself, and I always enjoy how they look at the end. So we'll get started. I'm going to zoom in on this a little more because I am going to be working light. It's going to be hard for you guys to see probably if I keep the camera pulled back. So I'll fix up the camera, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do with this and what you come up with. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. You can see I've already got the horizon line made. It's very light, so it's probably going to be hard for you guys to see at first. And then as I start to develop the picture more, these lines will get darker. But that's on purpose because I'm going to have to erase this line eventually. So I've got an image of just like a small country church here. I just need to choose where my vanishing points are. My vanishing points, a lot of times the default is to put a vanishing point on the far right and a vanishing point on the far left. But sometimes the way you're looking at an object, it's just not true. Like the vanishing point ends up being somewhere closer to the center, maybe on the right, and maybe it's off the page somewhere on the left, and that's okay. So if you need to make a vanishing point, maybe on your, maybe you needed to make your vanishing point like on your tape or something here, right, and let this image look like it's continuing to fade off the page, you can do that. That's fine. It's going to make it look like your angle of your building or whatever is less dramatic if it can flow off the page as opposed to trying to pinch it all onto the page. So actually, this is actually a really helpful technique a lot of times, is to just let your vanishing point come off the page. For this particular image, I'm going to have to take a measurement real quick, but I think that it is going to come off the page on the right. Yeah, it's going to come a good ways off the page on the right. So I'm just going to kind of arbitrarily make it over here somewhere. I feel like this is maybe about where it'll be. or on the left rather, I'm sorry. And then on the right, it's actually, on the right, it's not even all the way to the page. It's a little more cramped than that. So I think on the right, it's gonna be somewhere in here. All right, so my vanishing point is here. And then I've got another vanishing point that's way off the side of the paper over here that you can't see. Then we'll start drawing our building. So the first thing we draw is the leading edge. The leading edge is just that corner that's closest to you. So you'll say that corner starts somewhere in here, down to about there. All right, and then I'm going to take that leading edge to both of my vanishing points. That's the leading edge to the vanishing point on the right. The same thing for the top. My leading edge, the top of it, is coming to the vanishing point on the right. And then over here, this vanishing point is just coming clear off the page. You guys can't see it on the video because I've got it zoomed in so you can actually see the lines I'm making. But it's just coming way over off the page, and I'll end up cutting it short here in just a minute. But be my leading edge there. And then from the top. All right, so that'll be where I start. And then I need my trailing edges. So my trailing edges are what give this building its depth, right? They define how wide it is, how long or deep it is. And so this church building is longer than it is wide. So let's see. So it's going pretty far back here. Maybe something about like that. And all my lines are either straight up and down or they're diagonal. Keep that in mind. If you find yourself doing this with your ruler, you're probably doing something wrong with 2-point perspective. The only time your ruler is going to be sideways, the only time your line is going to be sideways is for the horizon line at the very beginning. That's it. And then the width of this church. Somewhere in here. And so you can see it's a little longer, a little deeper than what it is wide. So then I've got a couple things on the side here for this church. I've got 3 windows on the side. And so I'm going to use my vanishing point to create a line that'll show me where the bottom of the 3 windows are. So that line's going to be where the bottom of all 3 windows are. Then another line to show me where the top of the 3 windows are. All right, so my windows are going to be between here and here. And then all I need to do to define those windows is choose how far back they are and how wide they are. And I do that with just vertical lines. And so these are nice, tall, pretty dramatic windows. And then as they get further away, they'll get smaller, right? And so then they're not as wide either. They get smaller from the top and bottom, and they get smaller width-wise. And this very last one looks like barely a sliver. Oops, didn't go down far enough. So that can be something you run into as you get a lot of lines going and you might be confused which one you're using. So that's what I just did. I didn't go down far enough. All right, so there's my 3 windows on the church. Let's see, I've got on this side, I've got a door. So the door, the bottom of the door is going to line up with the bottom of the building. But I do have to define the top of the door. And it's going to be about the same height has the windows once you factor in the peak. So I'm going to let it go from my vanishing point on the left to a little lower than the line that I used for the windows. Right, and then I just have to choose how wide or narrow this door is going to be. And to help with that, this door is right in the center of this side of the building. So to help find that center, I'm going to make an X from the top right corner to the bottom left corner. And then from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. The center of that X is going to be the visual center of this side of the building. So you can use that if you've got something like a door that's right in the middle. You can also use that to help find your peak later for this rooftop, which we'll need. So now I know that my door, the center of my door is going to be right above the center of this X. Something like that. Like that. So with 2-point perspective, a lot of times something that we know is in the center will look off center because it's an optical illusion. It's just the way that you're looking at it. Just like we know that the top of this building and the bottom of this building actually run parallel, right? They're not getting closer together as they fade off to the left. But the optical illusion is that they appear to be getting smaller and closer together. So things that we know are parallel don't look parallel in 2-point perspective. Things that we know are in the center don't appear to be in the center in 2-point perspective. So that's why we use these vanishing points to kind of help guide us there. Let's see. And then there's a small peak over top of this door. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to draw a line straight up from the center of the door to where I think the top of that peak is. And I think that's pretty close. And then a line from the top of that peak to the corner of the door, and then the top of the peak on the other side, on this other side, to the right corner of the door. So I've got this door, I've got kind of this decorative peak that's over it, I've got my 3 windows, and then I need the actual peak of the building. It's got a pretty steep roof, and I've already found this center line. So I can continue that center line, the same one that I used for the door. I can just take it straight up until I feel like it's tall enough to indicate the top of this roof. And I feel like that's pretty close. I'm going to take it to this vanishing point just to make sure that it is working for me, and I think it is. So I'm going to take it to that vanishing point on that side, because that would be the ridge of the roof, right? The apex of it. This side, I'm not gonna take to the vanishing point, because all I see is the slope from the peak and slightly overlapping the corner of the building. So I'm just gonna take it past the corner of the building a little bit, and then I would run the corner of the roof of the overhang back towards this other vanishing point. All right, and then for the rest of this peak of this roof, all I have to do is connect the dots basically from the peak to this corner, and then it should overlap slightly again, something like that. And then I'm going to take that overhang back to the vanishing point. All right, and it's all starting to come together now. Now what I need is the slope of the back of the roof here. All I'm going to do is mimic the slope of the front of the roof. So I'm just going to put my ruler there, and I'm going to slide it back till I get to the back of the roof. And then just kind of replicate that same angle at the back. These windows, the panes of glass are divided in these windows. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. You'll still use your vanishing point for that. Let's see, I feel like it's easier for me to see it from below. So I'm going to use this vanishing point, and I'm just going to mark through the windows where the panes of glass are divided. And I did an extra line there. I just need to erase it later. So that's why I'm working light. Let's see. So I need 2 more lines. It's divided 3 times. I need to make sure that I'm pivoting on that vanishing point. And I want to make all of these divisions even. So they kind of need to drop it a little bit. And then these windows are also divided twice vertically. And so I'm going to do just lines straight up and down that will divide these windows evenly into 3. I say evenly, but actually it won't look even because the furthest one is going to look smaller than the other 2. So all right, and this one's barely going to be visible because it's so far away. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is start to erase some of these lines that I don't need. Actually, I'm missing one more thing. There is also a steeple on top of this church. And so I need to go ahead and find the height for that as well. So again, I'm going to use this middle line. It's kind of, well, actually that won't work on here because the steeple's a little further back. So I'll go ahead and just do the squared part of the steeple. Steeple is sticking up. Trying to see where its leading edge is. It's kind of tough to see. It's on this side of the building. Probably somewhere in here. That's probably high enough. Yeah. And then just a fade here. Right. Yeah, I think this is looking too wide, so I'm going to bump it in a little bit. There we go. That feels better. I'm going to do another line to the vanishing point. I need to find the trailing edge of the steeple. It's pretty thin. And then from the bottom of that leading edge, there we go. All right, and then the steeple also has, you know, it still feels too wide on this side. So I'm going to bump it in again. This is just me being picky. So then the steeple also has a peak on it. And so then I would use that same technique as far as using the X to find the visual center. Right, and then I'm going to draw a line straight up from that visual center. And the peak is pretty steep on the steeple. And then I'm just going to go and overhang a little bit on either side again. So from the top of that steeple, overhang. Do the same thing over here. On the very top, like that ridge or apex of the steeple, I've got to get a line to the vanishing point. And then again, I'll mimic this angle on the back side. Let's see. And leave a little bit of overhang again. Yeah, so this should come up a little higher. That's what I'm looking at. Okay. And then there's this cross up top. And that cross is also going to go to a vanishing point. The cross is lined up with the left-hand side, so it's going to go to the left-hand vanishing point. All right, so you've got your piece of it that's up and down, but your actual cross is not going to be straight across. It's going to come down at an angle. All right, and this arm's going to be a little longer because this arm's going to be closer to you. And then there's like this decorative thing just below the cross. I can't even tell what it is, but I'll put it on there just because it's there. It looks like a sphere. So I'm going to throw that on there, and then I think we'll actually be done with the 2-point perspective part. And then it's just a matter of putting all this together. So let's see. Oops. Just a little line I'm missing right here. There we go. Okay, had to fix that angle slightly. All right, so I'm going to turn off the camera for a second. I'm going to get a darker pencil and some eraser, and I'll kind of flesh this out for you guys so you can see exactly what I've done, just in case you can't see it very well right now.
Well, I've been coughing fire. Well, I've been caught in fire. I've been caught in fire. Oh. Well, I've been caught in fire. I've been caught in fire. I've been caught in fire. What comes prior to? been caught in fire. I stayed down the other night. I've been caught in fire. I stayed down. Without knowing what the truth I've been caught in fire. I stayed down the other night. I've been caught in fire. I stayed down. Without knowing what the truth is. Fire, fire.